Don't forget to, of course,
subscribe.
Thank you so much. And of course, follow Xiaomi on Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else.
A few moments later.
Hey guys, what's up? We're back again with yet another episode of Mr. Phonecast, and this time we've got a standee and stuff. So it's really cool. This is special for Xiaomi. Thank you, Anuj Sharma, for being on show. And if you could introduce yourself a little bit. Obviously, a lot of people already know you, but just for those who don't.
Sure. So I'm Anuj. I look after marketing at Xiaomi India. Overall, a little geeky. I like playing games. Sometimes binge watch a bit too much. A bit of a PUBG addict, so I need to cut it down to about 60 minutes a day.
I'm guessing the K20 will help you. K20 Pro will help you with your PUBG addiction. Yeah. All right, let's get down to the question. First of all, I want to thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank you so much for being on show and also doing this to me. So guys, we haven't shown that on video yet, but the Mi beard trimmer, wonderful trimmer, did this to me. So the accessories ecosystem is growing. So
yes,
what you want to talk a little bit about Xiaomi entering into that space in India?
So we've launched a lot of categories recently. I mean, beard trimmer was the recent one. Last week we had, it was just a crowdfunding, so we're testing waters, but we had the truck builder. So it's for those people who like to kind of put things together.
It's like a Lego?
It's something on those lines.
Right.
So it's I don't know how many thousand parts, but you spend time, and depending on obviously how good you are with these things, it could be anywhere between 2 hours to 6 hours to put it together. But it's good fun. Before that, obviously, we had the lifestyle side.
Right.
So we had things like even from pens to t-shirts to, of course, the hugely successful shoes.
Even that was on crowdfunding, if I'm not mistaken.
That was on crowdfunding.
So for the audience, how does crowdfunding work?
So crowdfunding is that we get a bare minimum quantity and we test it out. So we put that out saying that, hey, if at least so many people are interested, we will go and procure it, and that will also give us an idea in terms of whether there is a demand for this product or not in the market. On the other side, it also helps because a lot of our Mi fans keep asking us, they're in the Xiaomi ecosystem, there are so many products and they keep asking us saying that, can you get this, can you get this?
Yeah, air dots.
Yeah. So it becomes a way to kind of test the market. The velocity of their crowdfunding sometimes gives us an indication, saying that yes, this is something that we could pick up. Of course, in some cases, like for example, the trimmer. Now we understand the trimmer market in India.
Okay.
And it is huge. So we didn't really have to go for crowdfunding. We went straight on sale.
Right.
And
it was sold out.
It was surprisingly sold out. That's where I made a joke on you.
I will put that tweet up on screen right now. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Xiaomi is also tackling those ecosystems and getting out there for sure. That is definite.
But there's a whole lot of things that are still pending. We would love to get that to India, but Xiaomi is still a small team in India.
Okay.
If we expand too quickly, we'll end up missing out on one thing or the other.
All right.
What we are most concerned about is lack of proper quality testing, and we are looking at entering into places where we can really make a difference. So trimmer being one, which completely kind of reshapes that market now.
Here's one question I've always asked, all the Xiaomi execs whenever I've met them, is how do you pick and choose that product that you should get to India, right? Because, for example, now if I ask our viewers to comment down there what product they want to see, you will have a multitude of them.
Yeah, and the first one I think they'll ask is a laptop.
Mi laptop, right.
And the same thing, right? So the laptop equation is slightly different in India. In China, of course, our laptops do well, and it's priced around 5,000 to 6,000 RMB, which is about 50 to 60,000 rupees.
Right.
Now, in India, the average selling price for laptops is a lot lower. It's somewhere around 20,000-25,000 rupees.
Interesting.
Now, for us to do a high quality product in that particular price point, is not really feasible. So we are still kind of looking at it. Never say no, but we're not ready yet.
Right.
So that's also some of the problems. Can we make a difference to that industry to a level which is expected out of Xiaomi?
I think that's enough of accessories and ecosystem question, because people are waiting for me to ask that one question. I mean, there's a lot of hype around the K20. There is no doubt about that. In fact, if we put out any videos, the first question is, where is the K20? So there is a lot of hype around it. Do you think Xiaomi will meet it in India?
I hope so. I mean, that's, we've been looking at all that hype. And of course, one part that was really interesting for all of us was the moment it launched in China, it got a spike in India. Almost instantly,
Right.
on that particular day, which meant that people were looking at Xiaomi very closely, irrespective of where it was launching. And we've been kind of following what consumers are expecting out of it. Our read is that they want like a no compromise flagship.
Right.
And of course, all the other Xiaomi things that come with it.
Which includes the honest pricing as well.
So I think we should be able to.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things that we focused on. We've spent a lot of time looking at the testing in India, the Indian conditions. We do something called HALT, or highly accelerated live testing.
What is that?
Which basically means in about a couple of days, you take the thermal and humidity cycling
Okay.
rapidly up and down
Okay.
to simulate using this device in Indian conditions for 2 years, 3 years.
Oh wow.
Right? So
the K20 has passed all of that.
So it has to do all of those things, right? And because this is the first phone that we have launched in India which has moving parts, we had to be extra careful with all of those things. How does it handle dust? How does it handle humidity, moisture?
All of those
So
things.
all of those things we were kind of testing very closely.
But this happens across Xiaomi phones, not
it
just
does.
K series.
This one obviously needed a lot more focus because, like I said, it's slightly different from all the other Xiaomi phones we've launched so far.
Right.
So we had to be careful.
Right. So let's get down to that question where, which is there in everybody's minds, is the Redmi K series, right? The naming convention, and where did it come from, and how does it fit into the Redmi ecosystem? Because up until now, Redmi phones have been known to be either budget phones or mid-range phones.
Correct.
Now you have a proper flagship coming in. So where does the K20 fit in, and are people's perceptions already made, or does the Redmi K20 have a chance?
Okay, so from a perceptions perspective, I think most of the consumers in India have been pretty open.
Right.
Otherwise, Xiaomi launching in 2014 wouldn't have been successful anyways.
That's true.
And they've shown that time and again. Some of the brands have come in and almost acted like fly-by-night operators, but beyond that, largely the Indian consumer is looking at the best possible tech. Now, from a Redmi series perspective, why does this series exist is an interesting one, because when we started, the entire Redmi series used to be about 9,000 or 10,000 to 6,000 kind of a price range.
Right.
Now our consumers have kind of evolved, right? People who were studying, got jobs, loved their devices but wanted something higher.
Right.
And slowly we upgraded our Note series, and now we've got the Note
Note
Pro.
Pro.
And the Note Pro at 16,999 is still one of the best sellers. So we have been moving along with our consumers.
Right.
It's not that I wouldn't say that we've moved the market, but as consumers, as people who've loved our brand, have moved into, once you start making your own money, you are willing to spend a little bit more.
Right.
We would have been doing a disservice by letting them go. Right? Suppose we suddenly stop and say that, hey, the entire value that you've been used to, the entire ecosystem that you've been used to, what you've loved about the brand that you followed for the last 3 years, 4 years, stops here. And from now on, you're on your own. Find a brand or find something else and do it. Rather than that, we give them that option. So we grow with them, and as they are growing and they're getting more in life, we give them a genuine option, which pretty much has no compromises.
And why is it called the K20 and not the K10?
Okay, so the philosophy obviously was that we get them that particular offering, right? We look at this as a disruptor.
Okay.
The first disruptor internally from a Xiaomi perspective was obviously the first phone that we had, which was the Mi 1.
Mi 1, okay.
Or the Mi 1, 1S. And they did to flagships what they did to the flagships was unheard of at that time.
Right.
And that was the first disruptor, and obviously that's how the entire wave started. That's how the overall phones selling only online started. Till then, nobody had thought of this model.
Right.
Right?
You consider yourself as pioneers in that space.
Nobody else did that. Of course, after that, a lot of brands have followed suit. But this is how it started off. And of course, that business model was liked by consumers.
Right.
It came at the right time.
Because
especially
internet was also booming.
In India, internet was booming, online shopping was booming. It just kind of fit that curve perfectly. We are looking at this as version 2.0 of that. Right? So that was obviously on the Mi series. And now Redmi gets to reboot that. And hence, it was second version of the disruption. So 2.0.
Right.
And of course, you have to have like a moniker in it. So we said, okay, it is basically like a killer 2.0.
Killer 2.0. Like a killer flagship.
Yeah. Now, 2.0 doesn't translate too well in social media.
Right.
Most of our marketing is social media. So we have to remove the dot. And hence, what you have is a K20.
Right.
It has a nice ring to it though.
That's true. Now, talking about marketing, now since you brought up marketing and since you do marketing, I have a marketing related query, and I don't know if there are many people have this question or not, but this has been in my mind for a long time. Xiaomi spends very little, or zero is the
No, it was zero for the first 3 years.
So now how does, like, where does the marketing spends go? Like, for example, a lot of it is still social media, a lot of it is still word of mouth, people talking to each other basis of the product they've bought. So that's a really good this thing for Xiaomi. But there are certain products that deserve maybe a TV presence, or how does that work at Xiaomi?
So okay, so now, I mean, from doing almost zero spends on marketing for first 3 years, we started changing.
Right.
Even today, any marketing we do, we look at the most efficient way of reaching the consumers.
Okay.
And that is the critical part. For the online crowd, right? For the people who are connected, who are always getting this information, whether it's YouTube, whether it's social media, the channel doesn't change. Right? We still don't spend much. We're probably the most efficient in terms of marketing there. But in India, only about 30-35% of the consumers are actually buying online. Remaining, all of it is still buying from retail counters.
Right.
Xiaomi right now has a market share of 30%.
30% already.
And this happened because we did also expand into retail.
Okay.
You can't have 100% of the online business.
True.
Right? When you get into retail, you are also reaching a whole new set of consumers who for now didn't really have an idea that you existed, or even if they had heard of you, they didn't know which products and why.
Right.
Now for those guys, you have to get that awareness up. So when we do marketing campaigns, it is largely to get awareness into the new categories.
Right.
The TVC is not meant for the guy who bought the Mi 3 or the guy who's bought a Note 7 already. TVC is to tell a whole new set of people that, hey, this brand exists and it has awesome products that, doesn't really burn a hole in your pocket.
Still done at a very minimal cost is what you're saying.
So as efficient as possible.
Right.
Is what we go after. Right. Traditional media, unfortunately, is obviously a lot more expensive. But we, for example, compared to most of the other big brands that you see in mobile advertising, we spend about 1/10 of them.
That's interesting. So there you have your numbers. So okay. So now coming back to the K20, before I start talking about the product itself and how much ever you can reveal about it, but the one question that is on everybody's minds is what happens to the Poco series. Whatever you can reveal about that.
Well, I don't know what happens to the Poco series. So Poco, like what we announced last year, while it is almost like a startup being incubated by Xiaomi, it is a separate team. That means the go-to-market strategies, the portfolio, the products is with the Poco team. So for getting any answers in terms of how they want to go ahead, I guess the Poco team will have to comment on that.
Right.
I can't talk on their behalf.
Right. That's true. Okay. So now coming back to the K20, I'm presuming both the phones are launching, K20 and the
Yes.
K20 Pro, right?
So you have
So all of the specs, everything, all the details are out there already. People have probably already seen the video. But is there something that you want to talk about specifically about the K20 Pro specifically that you want to highlight and say that okay, fine, this is why you should be buying the K20 Pro?
Okay, so one thing that I really loved about it is the fact that it has a better screen to body ratio
Right.
than even the Meme X3.
That is a very interesting point. This we discussed about. How does that happen?
So we've obviously been evolving, and this is also one of the reasons when we were looking at getting the Mix 3 into India, it was a stunning device, and then we started working on that, and of course it was a slider, and again the questions on how will it fare in the Indian environment started coming in. So I said, okay, let's kind of wait, because this has been in the works for quite some time. So I said, let's wait till we get something which is even the next level. Because it's less moving parts, or the entire thing doesn't move, we're able to shrink the bezels even more. Now the bezels on the K20 that you see are there for the structural integrity.
All right.
Means they have to be there right now with the tech that we have, but they are barely there.
Right.
So it gives you that edge-to-edge display, which obviously looks brilliant. And the second part about that display is when you watch HDR content on that, right? It really kind of...
So it supports HDR.
It supports HDR.
Right.
So the first time you kind of fire a HDR content up, just go to YouTube. It's easy to find. You say, okay, HDR video, and then you start seeing a clip that you've seen before, and it starts shining through. That's a moment of magic.
So, I mean, the HDR is first on a Redmi phone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Oh, so there you go.
I think our first phone in India that has HDR support.
Xiaomi's first phone in India that has HDR support. So in case you guys have been waiting for a Xiaomi phone with HDR support, the K20 is the one to get. One question that I want to ask is, considering the phone is already launched in China, are there any India-specific features that we could expect in the K20 series?
So there'll be some tweaks done. A lot of India-specific changes that we've done are actually behind the scenes.
Okay.
So we focused even more in terms of the quality checks that we had to kind of get done, some tweaks that have to be done looking at the Indian conditions. So all of that will be there, and there'll be some software changes which I think we will reveal on the 17th.
Alright, so wait for the 17th to know more about the K20 Pro, but of course we've discussed a lot more about the K series.
So you've seen this on Instagram where influencers talk about a particular product.
Right.
The difference between an Instagram influencer doing this is people don't take the person as a reviewer, and second is they don't talk about all the brands. In fact, actually in the US, after the Fire Festival,
right,
all the influencers are supposed to say paid promotion.
Absolutely.
Right? In India, none of those
There are
laws.
strong rules, even in the UK for that matter.
In India, none of that exists. So you don't know if, for example, now I don't know if any of the tech influencers have taken up that offer. I know that offer was out there. But now their audience does not know when that person is actually giving a genuine review, or when it's actually paid for,
right?
And that is a bit of a disservice for their consumers, because a lot of their consumers depend on their word to go and buy. I frankly follow a lot of the Indian tech media to see that, okay, if for example recently I bought a car, so not tech media but automotive media, and I looked at different videos, and I looked at all the articles and reviews coming in.
You did your basic research that any Indian does nowadays.
And all of them do that, right? And I saw YouTube videos saying that this guy comparing it with this. Now it's mostly opinions. And if somebody tells me that, hey, the car that you bought was actually a paid review, or you had a series of paid reviews by that brand, which were not exactly true, and then I start using that car and I realized that this was missing, is going to...
It's almost like misleading advertisement.
It is almost that, right?
Yes. So do you think there is a need for regulation in India? Like, I'm going at a little, 30,000 level, because this is an interesting conversation to have.
I think we should, at a base level, if it is... I'm not saying that you should influencers should stop taking money,
Right.
because that is one of their sources of income.
Yeah.
But as long as they can clearly call out, saying that it includes paid promotion, or this is in conjunction or sponsored by so and so, that is fine. Right? That will also mean that a brand cannot pay somebody to badmouth. Right? Imagine if this brand A and wants to badmouth brand B, and that video on brand B says sponsored by brand A. That will obviously get caught out.
Absolutely.
Now imagine if I do a TV advertising. Now TV has regulations, right? If I do a TV
It does.
advertising,
I've seen a lot of inconsistencies over there as well.
so in TV you have something called an artistic license.
Okay.
So for example, your bike's flying off and all that, which clearly you have to call out, saying that how this is done and stuff like that. But I could now never do a TV ad on a brand B saying that, hey, don't buy this brand because this is XYZ. That does not work. And there is certain regulation coming in that media. In fact, if you want to do that, most of the channels will ask you for that proof, because, hey, that doesn't seem right. Our internet promotions are not regulated at the moment.
The Do the Math campaign is something that comes to mind for me when the OnePlus launched. So, what is your take on that?
So Do the Math was that was an interesting one. It was simple equation, right?
Right.
It was math. We were not saying that what's bad and what's good.
True.
But we said, for example, hey, there's a headphone jack. So one headphone jack versus 0 headphone jack. So obviously,
Right. So you're not doing it blatantly. You're
Correct.
You're finding creative ways to do it.
Correct.
Right. And everybody does that. Honestly, I've seen all brands indulge in that sort of marketing, and that's interesting for sure.
So that's pretty much like what. And here I'm going a little more into the mobile industry. What a Samsung does to Apple in the US,
Right.
or what a Pixel did recently again to the iPhone 10.
iPhone 10, yeah.
Now you're clearly calling that out and showing your proof points, right? But for example, if Pixel released an ad which was only the iPhone 10, saying that, hey, I don't offer these things, that would be misleading.
That's true.
If you were a movie critic, right, and you start taking money from certain producers to say this movie is better than that one, or two movies are launching this weekend, but this movie is better than the other one, that starts becoming a little more, unless obviously you clearly meant it and there was no money involved, and that's fine.
That's fine. All right. So, of course, clearly a need for regulation in place, in my opinion, as well. But do you think that, just one final question, do you think that this is only India specific, or does this also extend elsewhere?
It does extend into a couple of other countries as well.
Yeah.
Most of the Western markets have put a regulation in place because they saw this as becoming a problem. Also because internet is widespread, and hence a lot of false information was kind of spreading either through influencers or through other medium. So they've put those regulations down. For India, for a couple of other developing nations, it's all new. While access to internet has basically been booming over the last couple of years, the regulators haven't really caught up to it.
That's right.
And I guess nobody's complained yet, probably. That's why.
That's true. So the final question, so K20, of course, lot of hype. Are you going to go out of the bang with the K20 this year, or is there going to be more with Xiaomi?
Again, never say never.
Never say never. That's true. But the year doesn't end with K20, I'm presuming.
It's July.
No, that's, it's already, the fatigue is set in for us, for sure, because it already feels like December, but I'm guessing Xiaomi also has a lot in store.
We should.
Obviously. Great, Anuj. Great having you on Mr. Phonecast. We've always wanted to have a chat with you, and this was probably the best way to do it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.